Hey everyone, welcome to Tell Me Something About Love, an interview series for and by queer and trans people of color, centering Black folks, where we tell stories about love, the different ways that we're creating and holding space for ourselves and each other to receive and offer love in the ways that we want. And I'm really excited for our guests today, Z and Mia, who I will allow to introduce themselves. So please share with people whatever you want to share about yourself.
Okay, you first.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm with Marsha's Play Podcast. We're a trans podcast. I'm the trans masculine voice of the podcast, and glad for you to have us here.
My name is Mia. I'm one of the feminine trans voices on Marsha's Play Podcast. I also do a little bit of activism in the community, just a tad bit, not too much. And I don't know. A little bit about me. I guess I just want to educate people on trans folks because I feel like that's where it starts. Correcting like the ignorance, because I feel like the reason why a lot of people are discriminated against is because they're uneducated.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks for sharing who you are, what you do. And so in addition to the work that you both do on the podcast, well, the work that you do on the podcast is together, and you guys are also a couple. And so I'm curious, just what's that like to kind of work together or be those voices sharing about the trans experience and sort of working together?
I love how there's no pressure between us. Like if we say anything personal, we just let the person be the person, if that makes sense. Like it's like no pressure in it to be somebody else just because you know your partner is on here. Or that's what I like about the relationship. It's very open. Um, as far as what it's like, it feels normal. It just feels like we all just trans people relating to trans issues in the moment. And so it's really like sometimes I forget, like it's not always in my head, like my girlfriend is next to me, so let me watch what I say. That's one thing I like about it. But
yeah. One thing I like about it is just the fact that we can be open, because sometimes the podcast almost feels like a therapy session. You know, with Diamond and her voice of reason, it's like we talk about our issues within our relationship, outside our relationship, and sometimes he catches me off guard. I'm pretty sure you heard it sometimes. Sometimes he catches me off guard, but it's never like afterwards. Oh, you tried to put me on spot. We acknowledge our like the whatever it is that we bring up, and then we just go from there. And then like afterwards, like after the podcast, we're like, okay, I feel like we got through that, and I feel like we'll be able to go through whatever we're going through a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you both mentioned that there's just an openness between you, that you can kind of just be yourself and let each other be themselves too, like without any, like, oh, this is my partner next to me, or like, oh, I can't say this or that. It's just very open. Was that a process to like build up to that openness, or do you feel like it's kind of like naturally just been that way? And if it was a process, like what did it take to get to that place of just being so open and honest with each other and so publicly?
Well, okay, so I've always been a really open person in general, and that's something I've been like in all my relationships, whether it be a friendship, relationship with my friends, my family, because I just think it's important. I feel like if you're not open, sometimes you could be holding back things that may help your relationship. Because I feel like some people try to be performative, and it just doesn't help their relationship. Like you think this is what you need to do, but instead of asking this person, hey, this is is this what you want? Or this is how I feel. How do you feel about this situation? And you guys can come together and resolve the situation. I feel like that's what mature people do. Like we talk about how we feel, and no matter if you like it or if you don't, and then try to come to a resolution together so that we're both happy.
I would say I'm very communicative. That helps. I'm very communicative. I say what's on my mind, even if I know you don't like it or it might start a fight. I'm that type of person, so it's kind of like we set that dynamic from the get-go in our relationship. And from me being so open and honest, I don't know if that helped you, but I'm speaking for myself. But I know me being so open naturally helps a lot, and then me doing it on the podcast is really. But I'm very, very selective on who I'm open with. But me doing that on the podcast is like a piece of cake because I'm just naturally like that. So to put it in simple. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's great. I feel like people struggle with it though. Like it sounds like you guys are both just naturally that way and also maybe like practice that way a lot. So it's, it's easy. But I feel like a lot of people have barriers to being open and being honest for all types of reasons, like being afraid of what their partner's going to think or so many things, not wanting to hurt somebody's feelings. And I'm curious, like, do you guys have any suggestions for people who that may not come as easy for them to like be so open and honest? What are some things that people might be able to do to like build that muscle?
I think that, okay, first of all, you have to come to the root cause of why you don't feel secure being open and honest. I feel like once you handle the why, then the other part starts to flow. Like you'll be able to be more open, because I think if you don't know why you're not as open, then you can't resolve it. Because that's how it worked for me. There was a time where I was really closed, and I asked myself, I'm like, why am I so closed? And a lot of it had to do with not wanting to be in confrontational spaces. And I really don't like confrontation like that. Not that I won't handle it, but a lot of traumatic situations has happened to me where I had to be in confrontations that I did not ask for. So learning that every confrontation doesn't end in this big humiliating bang or something where it's a disagreement or a physical altercation. Sometimes a confrontation could just be me coming up to a person and saying, hey, this is how I feel. I want to handle this in a mature way so that we can come to a resolution versus us not coming to any resolution and this being for no reason and we're wasting our time.
Right. Also, if you want to make it work and build healthy boundaries for yourself, then you really have to be open. And sometimes that muscle is practiced with like at work or like with family. Like that is what I actually struggle with, is like with family and people I love. Like, I'm not saying I don't love you deeply, but like people that have known me since a baby, like their authority they spill into you is different versus a partner who is your partner and you build trust and intimacy in a different way. And so me practicing in other aspects, like as far as like say with my parents, like that helps with other aspects in life too. So you have to like tackle the weakest points of where your communication is. Yeah. And then it kind of helps in other aspects as well. And so that's kind of where I'm at with her. Like, and I feel like if I'm with you and I can't communicate with you, then why am I with you?
Yeah.
If I don't feel safe talking to you about stuff and about issues we got going on, And you know what I'm saying? Then what's the purpose of it? Because you're not building any trust. You're not able to build any trust.
And depending on what it is, you're hurting yourself.
Right. Exactly. So that's how I feel. But I know that stuff is not cookie cutter like that. And so I don't know. My advice would be to just to practice on that muscle in other aspects of life. And then you'll start to realize what's really important, like based off how people's responses are. And so you'll know what different responses you're getting and how to deal with them. So.
Okay. Yeah, those are both great suggestions. When you're talking about the relationship, like practicing with your family, practicing openness or communication, and also made me think about, I guess, like on the other side of openness is maybe like boundaries, like being able to establish those too. But kind of, I'm going to segue to another topic. I'm just wondering, like, what would you guys say are the, I guess, core kind of foundational things that you had to establish at the beginning of your relationship to establish like a good, healthy relationship that feels good for both of you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Go ahead.
Well, you go first.
No. You look like you wanted to speak first, so go ahead.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. It looked like you had something on your heart. Go ahead.
Let me see. Cool. What's the question again? I'm sorry.
Like, what are I guess, what's at the foundation of your particular, like, healthy relationship? It sounds like openness and communication are two of the things, but like, what are those other things that you established at the beginning?
At the beginning, well, I would say body boundaries was an issue.
What?
Yeah, because at the beginning,
I'm sorry, I don't know.
That's something we have to work on.
Body boundaries. Go ahead.
It's a broad, for lack of a better term, it's a broad statement. So basically what I'm saying is I was somebody that wanted to have sex all the time. And so I would ask you, right? I would ask you for it. And I would get upset if I couldn't get it. And then plus us doing sex work at the same time created some tension. And so I guess we had to set boundaries like, listen, these are my body boundaries and this is what I want and this is what I don't want. You say I don't know.
No, that makes sense.
You making a face like what?
Well, I'm listening and I'm trying to see where you're going with this. That's it.
I guess I'm just talking in a broad way. So basically,
okay.
Like as far as like with sex work and stuff, we had to set the boundaries of what's acceptable and what's not, and what's acceptable because we both haven't dealt with trans bodies before. So we also had to establish that, like, this is what it's like for me. This is my experience. Some of this stuff may trigger this for you. Some of this may not, stuff like that. Like setting like body and sex boundaries in the relationship was a struggle at the beginning. And now we pretty much get it. Like we know the boundaries. Like if we were to see a client or if we say we used to do OnlyFans or some shit like that. Like these are the boundaries. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Okay. It was the way you worded it. Now I get where you're going.
Yeah.
So basically, us being in this is hard to say because it's different. Because in a monogamous sex work relationship with someone else, it's not your traditional type of relationship. So I've never been in a relationship. Well, this is my first relationship, but I had never been with somebody who also did sex work. And so we kind of didn't know how the relationship was supposed to look, with us trying to be monogamous, but then also trying to get our coins. So it was like establishing how we maneuvered that type of relationship was hard in the beginning because we didn't even know what we were doing. Mm-hmm. And so, like, yeah, that was hard. Oof. I'm just thinking back on the time, because so if you don't have like your boundaries and what you'll accept in that type of relationship and what you won't accept and what's okay and what's not okay, if you don't know what you want or you don't discuss it going into it, and you find like you try to figure that out in the middle, it could be hard. But we got through it. We definitely got through it, and we were able to say, hey, this is what I'll accept while we're in this type of relationship. And what's our end goal? Do we plan on being in this type of relationship forever? Like, what do we plan on doing as an end result? Like, how are we overcoming this? Because it's not where we want to be at forever.
Right.
Okay. Mia, you said something like that y'all are in a monogamous but sex work relationship. I forgot to ask this at the beginning. When I talk to couples, I want to ask, like, how do you describe your relationship? Like, what's your relational style and things? So can you say a bit about that?
Okay, so since this is like a different type of relationship, like I've seen this type of relationship on TV, but then I've also like talked to other girls, like other trans women who do sex work. But I think what makes the difference is that they were doing sex work, but their partner wasn't. But both of us doing sex work was something new to me. However, like I said, I did see it on TV. Like you see porn stars who are entertainers, but they're also are married and they have a family. So it was I would say that we have a monogamous sex worker type of relationship, which means we don't date anybody. Like, we don't date other people. It's not open. We don't have sex with other people unless there is a coin involved. So like, that's business. Like, there's no emotional, well, not for me. And I know it's not for you, but there's no emotional connection. Now that gets tricky because you want to get your coins, right? So sometimes there's some performance that has to be done that could make it seem like it's something that it's not. And that's where the clarity and the discussion got to be like, okay, these text messages are saying that da 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 da, or during this session, it sounded like you got your life. Like, was this right? So just that took a lot of open communication and a lot of, we did argue a lot, but I think it was because, like I stated in the beginning, we didn't have those set boundaries in the beginning of this type of relationship, because we've never been in something like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we kind of just dove head first.
Oh,
yeah, we in a relationship. And then we was like, oh yeah, we do sex work. It was like, okay. But then we ain't established a boundary. Once we did, I'm glad we didn't wait too long.
Yeah.
But
because it almost, no shade, it almost broke us up.
Yeah.
Because it was, because doing sex work and being monogamous, that don't, like, when you hear it, it's like, how? Like, you're having sex with other people. Okay, yes, for money, but how is that monogamous? But when we look at it as a business aspect,
what helps like, us doing it together?
Well, doing it together, yes, but then like, I don't think people understand is that like all of this is like a performance. Like, when I'm with you, I'm giving you a cut. This is customer service. I'm making my coin. Like, once the door closes and we had the session, whatever we did, that stays there. There's nothing beyond the business aspect for me and as well for him. And that's something that we had to make clear with each other. Like, I wasn't getting my life. I had to give him a Halle Berry performance so that we could finish this session, And
sometimes you would tell me straight up, like, yeah, I orgasm.
Well, I mean, we do have sexual body parts, so yeah, I couldn't help it. Like, and then you too.
And I would just be like,
you'll be like, yeah, I did squirt a couple of times.
And I've never said that.
Yes, you did. You have said that before. It's okay, man.
I've never said that.
Yes, you have. It's okay.
Since I put you
I
on
got you
blast
this
so much.
time. I got you this time. Now.
Yeah, since I put you on blast so much.
I'm glad that you said that, because I was about to ask. So what happens if you do get your life, with one of your clients? Like, and how do you guys talk about that? And is that okay? Yeah.
Kind of just.
So at first. Okay, go ahead, babe. Because I've been talking a lot. Go ahead.
I kind of just go, oh, okay, now. But before, I used to get kind of jealous and be like, and then ask more questions. And then, like, she could tell where I was going. Like, she could tell. Not that you can't ask questions. Not that she wouldn't like me asking questions, but like it was the way I asked them. She knew that I felt some type of way.
Like an insinuating question. You know what I mean? It ain't like you actually curious. It's like, did you do this type of question? I'm like, hey, like, bro, I really asked me the question.
Yeah. Now it's to the point where like I don't even care to really just ask questions, but I might. Yeah, I might, like, but it's not like a big deal. Like now I just don't care. Like I know what comes with it, if that makes sense. Like what comes with them sessions. Like either you do or you don't. Like get pleasure. And if you do, then it's what it is, because it's sex.
Right. but okay, so let's be honest. Because we have had instances where so during this type of like trying to figure things out, I've been busted in on clients with him. He done busted in on clients with me.
Busted in.
But like in the middle of the session. You know what I'm talking to, Z. Don't be.
I was trying to see what you were saying by that.
Oh.
You mean came in.
Came in the door and saw you, caught you.
I don't know. Like busted in, like, what you doing? Like, nah. Never done that.
Yeah, like that was the crazy things that we were going through because of the lack of communication. Yeah. And then it's not easy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna paint this picture like even with the communication, there's still things that we still have to like be super, super communicative about, like, and then also reassuring to our partner because it can get blurred. Even though we have these boundaries established, it's like
we both.
I still want you to communicate with me, even though we're talking. Like I still want to be able to come to you and say, ask you questions, and you not get upset with me just because we've already established these boundaries. Like something that we talk about with each other is like, okay, sometimes even though I know that this is what we're doing, I may just need the reassurance.
And we also are both very dominant. So we don't, like, once we have a difference, it's kind of hard for the other person to not overpower the other person, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't. What do you mean by that?
Like when we talk and like say we have a disagreement, and then the other person is always trying to dominate not dominate, but dominate the conversation.
Improve themselves, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's one thing.
So if with that being true, like both of you being like wanting to prove your point, I'm assuming though, like the conversation happens, you guys still listen to each other, like you get to a point where you hear each other out, and like so how does that happen? Like there must be something else in the mix. There must be like some listening, some compassion, some like taking a step back.
Yeah, it's mostly taking a step back. Like, okay, I'll wait till you calm down, or wait till I calm down, because obviously it don't feel like I'm getting to you. So let's just take a break. Let's talk about this in a couple minutes.
Okay, or hours.
Okay. So taking some space.
That's mostly what it's like.
Cause you know when you're when you know you're right about something and somebody is misunderstanding
or think you're right.
Anyway.
And you just can't let it go.
But and you could be like, y'all both are like, I'm right. And the other person's not seeing the other person's point of view. Sometimes like taking a moment, stopping in the heat of that argument before it gets to a detrimental point where you both are literally angry at each other, when you could have just resolved the situation by just listening to each other. And what we've done, because in the past we didn't do that. We would keep going until we're upset, and then we're upset at each other, and now we have to try to bandage that up. And it's always easier to like take a break in that moment, like consensually be like, okay, right now I'm really upset. I don't want this to go further where we're upset at each other and we do some things that we regret. Let's take a moment and then come back to this where we're chill and we're level-headed, and we can actually have like a mature conversation about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for saying that. I think that's really important for people to remember. I'm a therapist too. And so that's always like, I'm always suggesting like, take that step back so you can regulate, so you can like get back to your baseline, so you can remember like that you want to maintain this relationship and this attachment. Because when you're in the heat of the moment, it's hard to center like your attachment, and like your anger and your emotions become central. So that feels like very important advice to remember. And Z, like when you first named like the things, the stuff around body, like when you very first said it, there was like a few different points that you were making about it. It seemed it was like this part about boundaries related to like emotional boundaries too, because you guys are both doing sex work and you're monogamous. And then you said something about you pursuing sex more, and that was another reason why the body boundaries needed to exist. And then you also said something about you two hadn't been with trans bodies before, and so like figuring out how to be with each other's bodies. It seems, I feel like the body part that you brought up was pretty full. Like there's a lot of complexity in like how you're navigating boundaries with your own bodies, with each other's bodies, with other people's bodies and emotions. And just kind of wanted to come back to that, like the other aspects that you brought up about body boundaries.
Right. As far as like, before we got together, I had sex whenever I wanted to.
Me too.
And I had different people to meet those sexual needs. Like we both did. Mm-hmm. Like say like in different genders, but never actual trans person. Mm-hmm. And I kind of expected that, like not expected that, but I kind of was used to that, and then I brought it mistakenly in a relationship. Like, yeah, like come on, like I want to have sex, so yeah, I guess we having sex now. So it was kind of that selfishness at the time, and then before that I was in a relationship with cis women that I did not have sex with. So like I guess internally I was expected, like I had patience with them. So I guess internally I was expecting something different. This may sound problematic, but because she's a male, but then she had, which meaning assigned male at birth.
Woo, go ahead.
It was ignorance at the time. And I guess because people do put that on trans women, they act like they are just these sexual deviant beings. And I had a lot of internal transphobia. But basically she had to be like nosy, like sometimes I just want to cuddle, I just want to chill and blah, blah, blah. And I guess like I used to get kind of upset at that because first of all, my sex drive was super high. But now it's like, and I really had to talk to myself, like, that's predatory behavior. Like, you getting mad and making the person feel bad for you not wanting to have sex with them. Like, nah, that's not cool. Like, that's not what being, like, a grown adult is about. Like, that's not what being mature is about. And so I took it on myself to just be like, chill, like, gotta chill. And so, like, after that, I just chilled and I kind of just went off her lead and for the most part. And then sometimes I'll take the lead, of course, but I kind of just let her lead the way, because I know that also estrogen for some people affects your sex drive. And so her sex drive goes lower whenever she's on estrogen. So I keep that in mind and I kind of just go with the flow. And then also, from what I've heard from you, you kind of have some things like some dysphoria that maybe could trigger you from not wanting to engage in the type of sex, which is topping sometimes, even though that's what you may prefer, because whatever. But I'm gonna let you explain that whenever you want to. But you know, some things may trigger you, so I can also keep that in mind as well. And so sometimes I don't want to have sex a specific way because it may make me feel, like, I don't know, like
it might trigger your dysphoria.
Yeah, that internalized transphobia. It's really not like that with me as much, but back then it kind of made me feel like less of a man, or you know what I'm saying? But yeah, those are the boundaries. Those are definitely some of the boundaries that were had to be set. And I felt like in a lot of cishet couples, a lot of the women probably feel obligated to have sex with the guy so that he don't go get it nowhere else. And so, like, that's something I wanted to stray away from, that thought and that disconnection. I didn't want that to happen, for her to think that I'm gonna just go get it somewhere else. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had to have a conversation like about that, and we talked about it on the podcast. Also, we kind of broke it down, but this was my first relationship, so I think us communicating about how we experience sex helped everything, and like where it originated from, like our experience and how we got to where we're at. Because me specifically, I was in relationships, well, not relationships. I was dealing with cis hetero identifying men, and in the beginning, when I started dealing with them, like I felt like a used cum rag. Like I came into the situation thinking like we were both going to get pleasured, but it ended up being as though I got pleasure during it, but I never reached orgasm like the other person did. And I'm like, at first I thought it was normal, but then I started to feel like I don't know if you like as a how can I explain it? Sometimes having relationships with men, sexual relationships with men, afterwards, and I remember feeling like disgusted with myself because like the energy changed. Like they would be all into it, but then afterwards it was like they changed it to a different person. And I remember so many nights like crying to myself or talking to my homegirls like, I feel like this is disgusting. I hate that I have to go through this. And then everything switched up once I started doing sex work. Everything was my way, whether you liked it or you didn't. And going into a relationship, I had to understand that one, we're in a relationship and he's not trying to use my body for just his gratification. He's actually trying to build intimacy with me. And I had to let go as this is my way or the highway type of mentality, because I came from being used as a cum rag, then taking ownership of my own body, then get into a relationship where I still have ownership of my own body, but it's a different type of sexual connection. And so getting used to that, it took an adjustment, but I had to explain to him that like in these moments where I'm saying, okay, yeah, I just want to chill, I'm not saying that I don't desire you sexually. I would prefer a type of intimacy where you're just holding me and we're building that type of connection. And sometimes it seemed like, oh, well, you must not desire me sexually. And it was never that. It is never that at all. Mm-hmm. And once we had that conversation about like, okay, this is my history with sex, and he told me his history, we understood it more, and it wasn't questioned as much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks for sharing. It's making me think about like what you're saying, there's different reasons for wanting to have physical connection. Like sometimes it's because you want to have sex and it's for physical pleasure. Other times you want to be physically close just for intimacy or like just for comfort, or like there's different reasons. And so I want to ask about that, like as far as physical connection and just in general, like what are the reasons that you would say that you're together? Like why are y'all in a relationship? What do you get from each other? What are you offering to each other? Because sometimes we just end up in relationships like on accident, or, like we don't even know the purpose, or it's just because there's somebody there. But it sounds like there is some, intention about like why you're together.
Are you going to go first?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
So, I would say, that's a very complicated.
Is it really?
Because it's so much. So it did start off like it just happened. Like we both wasn't seeking out trans people specifically. Like we were on a dating app. It's called Plenty of Fish, which is super transphobic. And I was looking for women, I wasn't looking specifically for a trans woman, but just
which are women
in general.
too.
Yeah, just women in general. And she was looking for men in general. Then I just hit her up, and it just went from there. And we kind of just been going with the flow. Like we just hung out, we just smoked, and she would tell me like straight up, like I'd be like, "What you up to?" She'd be like, "You just came back from a date." And
honesty,
right?
And I kind of just fell back, like, okay, well, I guess we're just going with the flow. If it happens, it happens.
But you were over that though. He was over the fact that I was on a date. Uh-huh. But I feel like I was communicating because I'm the type of woman, where if I'm single, I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. This is an Easter egg hunt. I'm trying to figure out who has the golden ticket, the golden egg. So,
man, I'm the person where if I like you, then I'm only fucking with you. Like that's how. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's where it started, and then like we kind of just kept going with the flow, and over time, I'm realizing that. I just realized that being with another trans person was in a way healing because it's healing because like with the cis person, you always not that we didn't have to explain ourselves, but it's just some things that like
some things you do have to explain.
Yeah, like the relational, like the being able to relate is like a little deeper. And me being a trans guy, I'm able to relate to cis women. Like, don't get me wrong, a lot, because we're both, female body people, but like another trans person is different because I don't know how to explain it.
I do.
It's like being with another Black person, for instance. Like there's like you being a Black person, dating a Black person, like you're going to understand things
the
at
cultural
a different level.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So and that in itself feeds the relationship, even if we don't try. Like it's just stuff that we can relate on. And And like there's stuff I can call her out on, and there's stuff she can call me out on, like as far as our transphobia or and just challenge each other on it. And also it just being naturally into each other. That more than anything, like it's not forced. It's not, at least to me, it don't feel forced.
It don't feel forced.
It just feel like, yeah, like we're walking through life together as best friends, as a couple, and letting each other be fully present and being individuals, and that also fuels relationship as well.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part. It's like being individuals, because it took me a while to understand that. But I do want to say that, like, the reason why, like, to touch on what you were saying as far as like being with a trans person, like, I feel like I'm not trying to sound problematic, so I'm gonna try to say this the right way. I feel like they're like, no matter what I told a cisgendered man, and no matter how he believed, what he believed, how feminine or how much of a woman I looked, I felt like there was something always in the back of his mind that was like, this is a man. And I feel like that's not something that I have to explain to him. Like I feel like he gets it just like I get it. And that's something that's important to me, because I don't want to be with somebody who thinks that I'm just getting up and putting drags on. Like I'm just like I'm not who I am. And I don't want to deal with somebody who has like any type of internalized transphobia, like where you're afraid to see your homeboys out in public with us, or you ducking and dodging and sneaking behind bushes, and like I'm not dealing with that. Walking 10 steps behind or 10 steps ahead or in your, like, no, I can't. And that was one of the beautiful things about just being with him. Like when we first started dating, like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but we were literally in a full bar. It was a bar, and like I didn't see anybody else but him. It was almost like we were in our own little bubble, and like he had to let me know about like everything happening on the outside, and that's what made our connection so beautiful.
And that had some internalized transphobia.
Well, yeah, he did. No, he did. He did have a couple of times. Well, it was just one time.
Yeah, because that's just because a lot of shit, like a lot of the propaganda like pushed about trans women, like that was the only connection I had with trans women, like just like everybody else, like the cis people, like.
But it wasn't only that, babe. Like at the time when you did that incident did happen, I was getting clocked, and the clock means that.
Oh, explain it.
Yeah, that's what. Well, people were coming up to me literally and like being transphobic in both of our faces while he was here. And it happened like at the mall, it happened at the airport. It happened in so many instances where I think it just made him uncomfortable. It was like, when we would go out, it would be like, okay, I'm not sure like what to expect. And I don't want to have to battle every time we go out. And I started paying attention, because like when you're in predicaments like that, you're aware of your surroundings. And I felt like he wasn't really on my side at one point, and it made me feel away. And I expressed myself to him. He took accountability for it, and he changed his ways. And that was beautiful to me, because some people would be like, girl, fuck you. I'm not going to be with you no more. How dare you? And you're a trans person. But I still had understanding. Like I said, this is my first relationship. So I'm literally trying to navigate my first time, if that makes sense. But even though I am older, I'm not going to say I haven't had opportunities. I've had opportunities to date, be in relationships with plenty of people, but I knew specifically what I wanted, what I would accept and what I wouldn't. And it took me this long, but I'm not in a predicament where I'm unhappy or it created trauma that it's going to take me forever to dismantle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you be open to sharing a little bit about that, Mia? Like, what's it like for you, this being your first relationship?
Oh, okay. So there was a lot of things. Okay, so in the beginning of our relationship, I didn't understand how important intimacy was. And so like the snuggling and touching and stuff, I didn't do that. I just I didn't like caressing and just like those small little moments where you're sharing those intimate moments with your partner. It wasn't something that I didn't say I didn't want to do. It just wasn't. It didn't come natural for me. I was just like, oh, okay. And then when he would do it, I wouldn't mind. But then he would say, I feel empty a little bit in our relationship because you're not as intimate. And he expressed that on the podcast too. And I would have to backtrack and be like, okay, well, I feel like I'm being intimate. So I was like, okay, well, what does intimacy look like? Because I didn't even understand what it looked like. Because my idea of intimacy was fucking. So I was like, we're definitely fucking. Like, so, so we're being intimate, but intimacy doesn't just include sexual intercourse. It includes like snuggling, and not just snuggling, like having those times where you're with your partner and y'all are both just talking, and just there's so many different ways to be intimate. And I think some people forget that. Like you get so involved in other aspects and forget that intimacy is very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, very important, like kind of foundational to have intimacy. Just the parts, like you said, just talking, like being able to talk, like that's a part of intimacy. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate how open you both are being. And I'm gonna just ask one last question. And I want to know just what you vision for queer and trans Black people in our relationships. Like, what do you think is possible for us when it comes to love? What would you like to see in the world for us when it comes to how we love ourselves and each other and be in relationship?
I would say I would love to see people not strive to seem heteronormative, because those norms we still sometimes try to integrate into to make us feel better. And sometimes what I've learned is sometimes when I strive unconsciously to seem heteronormative, not only did I harm myself, it can harm the relationship because you're setting standards that aren't real for your type of relationship.
But it's not even no shade. It's not real for their type of relationship either. Sometimes cis heterosexual people be setting standards where it be like, girl, you want me to do this, and this, but you're not doing this. Like, mm-hmm. You want me to be in this box, so I'm doing what you say I'm supposed to do in this box, but what are you doing in this box? And so that it just, I'm sorry, Neil.
No, you're good, but that's definitely what I would want to see. But just do what works for you, like individually. Like, don't look at cis het folks like this is the standard, and well, I'm gonna operate this way. Because sometimes, even as a masculine AFAB person, and being in a relationship with femme folks, there was an expectation of me to always perform a certain way, whether it be sexually or intimately. Like, I'm a nigga, financially, and I'm a nigga that I like to be hugged from behind.
I like to be spooned.
Right, like just do what works for you. Like, that's what I would love to see. Like, just and just being queer and proud of it, and it just be that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't have to be nothing further. It don't have to be like, because you're gonna go through shit just like other people. Like no couple is gonna be perfect. Like, you can't expect that. Even from looking, like seeking to be in a queer relationship is not going to be perfect because this could be queer people that are trash. Like, it's just like, don't have these crazy, not crazy expectations, but these unrealistic expectations when courting for each other either. So that's what advice I would give.
I would love to see Black people, whether they be queer or hetero or whatever they decide they want to present themselves as, just be able to navigate the every space within the Black community, whatever, without a threat of anything. I feel like I want to see the colonized vision of what white supremacy has told Black people what a relationship is supposed to look like, and what a woman is supposed to do, or what a man is supposed to do, or what a masculine or a feminine person is supposed to do. I feel like we're all different, and we all have different versions of what Black is, and what trans is, or what queer is, or just how we identify, and they should be respected. And I want people to know that your terms in your relationship doesn't have to match the other person's terms. And just because they don't match doesn't mean that person's is different or yours. You have your own vision and your own standard and what God has put you on this earth to be. And it's not to be like everyone else. And that means that your relationship, anything that you do is not going to be like everyone else. And I think that I would love to see different varieties of relationships to show the younger generation that anything is possible. The sky is the limit. You could do whatever you want. You don't have to fit into these boxes. And because you don't fit into these boxes doesn't make you a less of a person.
Yes. Thank you for that. I love that vision. And thank you so much for sharing and for, everything that you shared today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. It was a pleasure.
I really enjoyed it.
Yay. I'm glad. That was good. I feel like you guys said a lot of important things.
Thank you.
Thank you.